for survivors of rape, domestic violence, and childhood sexual assault.
Our foundation is donating product to the TED Women Conference this November. We need your help in raising $50,000. This tax-deductible donation will bring awareness to our mission to end abuse. Please visit renandrock.com and click on the foundation tab to contribute. Again, the website is WRENANDROCH.com. Please donate now.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
In the words of Katharine Hepburn, if you obey all the rules, you'll miss all the fun.
We couldn't agree more.
I'm Karen Hansen.
And I'm Laura Rockland. Welcome to Ren and Rock. We'll entertain, inspire, and empower you to be yourself, love yourself, and trust yourself to take chances.
After all, if you only get one life, you might as well make it a great one.
Happy Monday, and welcome to Ren and Rock.
I'm Karen Hansen, the Ren of Ren and Rock.
And I'm Laura Rockland, the Rock. We are so excited today to have our guest, Timothy Richardson, with us this evening. He has an incredible story about perseverance and has an amazing resume and many accomplishments. So for those of you who are watching on our podcast, you can find us on our Facebook page, which is Ren and Rock. You can also listen in at 95.3 FM and 1470 AM. So to give a little brief introduction about Timothy, he's a recent grad of the University of Miami. He's an actor, a model, and our current Mr. Florida 2017. And he also has a nonprofit charity called Ties for Change. So thank you, Timothy.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
We're excited to have you, and a lot of our listeners are very excited to see you.
Yes, everyone's been following on Facebook and our social media. And the question we keep getting asked is, how did you find Mr. Florida, and why is he on your show? So I will just go into detail about that briefly. So a couple weeks ago, I was home alone with no children, which is very rare. That never happens.
It's once a year, really.
Literally, I get my 1 week out of the year, which just me, and I'm a single mom of 3 kids. So when I have that week of the year, I'm like, yes. So I got home from work. I turned the TV on. Never have the TV on. I barely watch it. She doesn't even have cable.
And everyone knows that. That's great. Hi, everyone. I'm weird.
I don't at home I don't have cable either. I read a lot, so I don't really look at television.
I stay so busy.
Same. It's like traveling, so I don't really catch it.
Right, exactly. Anyway. So this particular evening, I had the TV on in the news, and there you were. And I watched it. And I was just completely amazed. And then I rewound it, and then I photographed it or videoed it, and I sent it to Karen because we had just had a conversation the week before that we wanted people on our show that they were an advocate for something. They had a platform. So your Ties for Change really resonated with me because most of you know, our listeners, that, again, I'm a single mom, and my children's father passed away almost 4 years ago. So my oldest son had a very similar situation that you had, where he was going to an event and he needed to have his tie tied. I had no idea how to do it. I had actually the Men's Warehouse brochure, and I'm like, I give up. I can't do it. I need someone to demonstrate.
Right.
So, I mean,
Men's Warehouse is going to have to sponsor our show, by the way.
I think so.
I think so. Major plug after tonight.
And Men's Warehouse is actually my sponsor for formal wear.
Oh, are they really?
Yeah, ironically
That's awesome.
enough. So shout out to Men's Warehouse.
There you go.
Thank you, Men's Warehouse.
There you go. So anyway, I ended up having to have my boyfriend come over and tie my son's tie. But when I saw that, I was like, this guy has my heart, and I'm just going to reach out to him, because it's kind of like the law of attraction. People and situations will come into your life or into your path, and you can either seize the moment and do something about it. So I stalked you, I found you, I sent you an email, and shockingly you responded, and that's why we're here today with Timothy. So thank you.
No, thank you. It's a definite. It's most definitely an honor. I was actually surprised that the story was so similar, because you don't expect for something that, when this first aired, for so many people to see it. I was getting phone calls from, I'm seeing you on my television, but then there was there was a mother that recent Sunday I spoke like at 8 churches in the morning. Shout out to my mommy for being my driver, because without her, I was asleep most of the time in the car. She'd wake me up and, are you ready to speak? Yes, ma'am, I'm ready to speak. Yeah, a mother came up to me with 17, and she says, I have a son who really needed to see that, and I've been getting just a lot of feedback from a lot of moms, which is very interesting. I didn't think, there were so many out there that were going through the same thing, and like in hindsight, you think it's just your mom or your life, and
right.
You don't understand how sharing your story can really inspire somebody else.
Do you mind if we back up and kind of tell your story?
Of course not.
Let's talk about your dad and your family unit and what happened and how things changed and Men's Warehouse. Like, let's lead all the way up to Men's Warehouse.
Oh, of course. Of course. I've always told people my life is always, I've been subject to like drastic change, I guess, So just a quick synopsis through it. When I was younger, and I was picked up, by my uncle, I guess the day my dad passed away. And being
How old were you at the time?
7.
Okay.
Being 7, I didn't really understand the concept of death yet. So I guess my perception of it is just sleeping, or like you have a very innocent mind, very malleable mind. So you're not, everything's wake up and play majority of the time. And
right.
You just start getting into like education. So after I was told that the day of, I went through a transition just internally, like religiously. There was a lot of things that like I had to cope with. I was mad because I grew up in a Christian home. I was mad at God for a while. You don't really understand why something's being taken from you when you're so young, because you feel like, I deserve to have both parents because every other child in my school has both parents, But I definitely feel it allowed me to mature at a faster rate as a young man. Most people think I'm older than 23, which is kind of funny,
Because you're an old soul.
That's what my mom, yep. I was definitely raised old school too, so it kind of helps. Everybody thinks I'm like postgraduate school when I'm on the campus of Miami. I'm like, no, just got
Not yet, but we'll talk
just
about
undergrad,
that too.
yeah. And from there it just kind of inspired me to find out who I am as a man, and to seek out mentors. So I found a lot of that through reading. When I first, read the autobiography of Malcolm X, when I first learned, about who Barack Obama is early when he was, when he was just representative of his state, just like a lot of things that I kind of built my perception of like manhood through these different public figures. And that's been like I guess, key to my formula, you know? And Ties for Change came about because when I was younger, from 12, I told my mom, I walked into the kitchen one day and told her that I wanted to start a nonprofit or a mentoring program. I knew I wanted to do something bigger than myself. I didn't really know the concept of it. Fast forward down the road, it kind of came to me in a dream. Ties for Change, the concept, the mission statement, it kind of all mapped itself out. I woke up the next day just vigorously writing.
We know the feeling, by the way.
Right. It's like when it comes to you, like, that's it, And I had been trying. I tried 5 times before that, like with a different concept name. It just didn't feel right. And then when Ties for Change came to me, I was like, this is it.
Right.
Yeah, this is perfect.
You just knew.
Right. Because then I was able to emotionally connect to it because it was based off of the story of my life.
Right.
Because when I was thinking about what I wanted to do, my mother said, why don't you make it emotional? Like, make it something like you can connect to. So I had to think back, and when that story came to me that day, to me,
Don't forget to tell the story, because the listeners don't know yet.
That's the perseverance right there, and determination. Wow.
To me, it was just just another day, but to other people, it was like, wow, that's like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that.
Especially at your age.
Right.
That's what floored me.
So Ties for Change came about because when I was younger, for my elementary graduation, all the parents were there. My mother, who's a hardworking mom, once again, shout out to my mommy. She's a correctional officer. She had to work. She makes it to everything. I've never seen her miss anything, but this one particular time, she couldn't receive time off. I got there. I wanted to be a big boy. Everybody was wearing the clip-on tie. I didn't want to do that anymore.
You were 10 years old at the time. Is that correct?
Yeah. So when I was getting ready for the graduation, I was walking around asking every teacher, like, hey, think you can tie this for me, possibly?
You're going to make me cry. Oh my gosh. Okay, yes, please continue.
Was really, they're so busy, and I look back at it now because I got a little mad. I was like, why is everybody ignoring me? But they were trying to put like this right plant this way, get all the kids in order. don't spill juice on yourself. So everybody's like doing something not supposed to be doing. And parents, and then I had this one moment when like all the chaos, like there's this one dad sitting with his son, and he's like smiling at him, and he's like, you can tell like I'm proud of you. He's fixing his tie, and I wanted that moment so bad. So I woke up the next day. This is back when we had dial-up computers.
We remember that.
Yeah, I was,
We're a lot older than you are, so
there were no computers.
I tell people I had dial-up computers, and I looked up a Men's Warehouse. I got lost 3 or 4 times riding my bike to go find it. It was like 8-10 miles away. On a bike that's far.
10 years old. 10 miles.
On a bike that's far.
Now, did your mom know before you did this that you were going to ride your bike 10 miles?
No. Usually, the majority of the time, she's gone in the morning. My
Right.
mom wakes up. She was always up around like 3:30.
Oh, my
She always made me breakfast, so I would know. So it'd be like I go in the kitchen, there'd be a plate of food, and I'm just kind of throughout my day,
Right.
So I was like, let me get up today and try to go find it. It was Saturday morning. Usually I'll go play basketball at the YMCA, but I kind of was like, I'll tell her later. It's okay if I derive from the plan of going there. And the first young man I walked into, I instantly just walked up and said, hey, can you teach me how to tie this? And he was looking around, and, he was like, so where are your parents? Kind of like a random child. I don't want to.
Right. Like, oh.
This is odd. Somebody playing a joke on me. He thought it was one of his sales associates at first. And I said, no, my mom's at work, and my dad died. I just want to learn how to tie this. And he looked at me, and I include this in my speech, and he was just eyes of admiration and sorrow, because he also lost his dad. And so when I told him that, we sat down for 2 hours. I still remember it to this day, and he taught me how to do the double tie, single knot, just everything. And I went to school the next day. I was so excited. I think I dressed up just to go to school the next day.
Tie. What grade were you in, like 3rd grade
just
or
to
4th
tell
grade?
people, just to tell people I can tie it, and I was annoying teachers because every time I don't tie it, they'd be ask me to tie it again.
Let me show you what I can do now. I got this.
Right,
Shoe tying is for babies. You can do this.
So I was so ecstatic from that point on, and that's what really ties into, and no pun intended, because I always gotta say ties in. That's what ties into Ties for Change, because every young man that comes in, usually I've never had somebody ask me how to tie a tie before. I'm like, welcome to the club.
Right.
I remember when I was that age and couldn't do it, and it just warms my heart, because these men, these young men come in, and for us to install professionalism in them and teaching them about business jargon, learning how to go into your first interview, which you should do. I've walked into interviews with young men before, like their first job interview, just to say like, hey, here's how you should do it. Laminating your resume, so when they're going through resumes, they'll know that, wait, that was that one kid. I remember him,
Right, it stands out.
Anything that stands out, right. And that's how Ties for Change was birthed. That was a beautiful part of it. It's based off of my life.
So how many young men are you mentoring right now?
Currently in the program, we have 8 right now. And the demographic age ranges from 6th grade to 12th. So we usually try to definitely keep in touch with them even after they graduate from high school. I just recently, and it's dedicated in my dad's and my mom's name. So it's a book scholarship, $500 book scholarship that students can apply for, because granted I was an athlete and I didn't pay for books. I know how expensive books are.
Right.
I got a lot of friends that weren't athletes. So, it's doing that to do what we can to show that, one book's changed my life. So that's the reason why a book scholarship, like everything's always tied into something special. So, that's what we do. And then continue calling them on the phone, making sure anything they're going through, even going through the beginning stages of adolescency. So it's major time. Emotions are changing. You don't really know who you are. It's high school, middle school. It's just really rough,
And how do they find you? Through your website, or how does that connection happen?
Right. So it happens a few ways. Through Instagram. On Instagram, I probably have about 20,000 people who follow me. And so on one aspect, I feel like I wear different hats, because I can be the model that everybody's like, oh, man, that's the model.
Right.
And then when they get to know me, they'll know that I'm like, well, he's a philanthropist. I didn't know that. I didn't know how he did so much within the community. So I kind of joke around. I say, yeah, I use the model to draw people in. And then I'm like, yeah, I'm actually really...
There's more to me than just this.
Right. I'm really involved. I'm really involved. You should... Yeah, so that's how that happens. And then through Facebook. And now, as of recently, this year, I would say being 23, being on television and doing these different things, that's been really new.
Right.
Because I've never had so many news stations and people actually call me before. I don't know what was going on.
We know that feeling too.
Yes, we do.
Hey, we have a TV show. That's
Right,
awesome.
yeah.
Watch. What's it about? We don't know yet, but we'll get back to you. We're
just making it up as we go.
Which is why you're here. But in the beginning, who knew?
Yeah, you kind of accept, just like the tide of it and just kind of ride the wave and just you pick it up as you're like going along. That's the best you can do, because you're never really prepared for the moment somebody kind of like sticks a camera and a microphone in front of your face and you're like, all right.
Say something and make it good.
Fast on your feet.
Right.
So tell us what is next for you. You just graduated from last year. Mm-hmm. And grad school sounds like it's on the radar.
Grad school is definitely a thing because I definitely promised my mom I'm getting my master's.
Good.
So we definitely have talks probably every week about plan. I'm currently, right now, if I were to go through a list, this is what everybody likes hearing because they swear I'm just never sleeping. I'm in the process of writing a book.
Right.
So that's pretty fun. There's.
Do you want to tell us about it, or tell us what it's going to be called, or have you gotten that far yet?
Or you're in the beginning stages?
You have an audience, so.
Well, the book. I won't say the title of the book yet because I'm still
working on it.
Yeah, I have a title, but I'm waiting for the book to be finished. But
I gotcha.
It's definitely going to be in the self-help, category, and it's going to be based off of experiences that I've like when I was at Miami. Mm-hmm. How I got to Miami. That's a very heartfelt story. So that's in the book. Definitely talks about triumph because I've emotionally been in dark places that have been tough to come out of, and I'll always use my experiences as my strength to get me through them. So that's in the making. I'm pretty excited about that. That'll be like actually a published book. I actually did a published workout 3 summers ago. Once I was getting out of the exercise phys program, and it was just for fun. I was like, I'll do this and I'll just publish it and see what everybody, I was thinking like my aunt and
my
uncle.
family will watch it.
Just like our show, people are
they'll download it. Over like 900 people, and it was free. I just and I had people messaging me saying, like I lost 15 pounds, I lost 20.
Great.
Yeah, and then the second issue of like workout plan that I put on my website, I actually put a lot of time into this. Mm-hmm. All the proceeds went to Ties for Change, which was pretty great because one of the stops on the tour, it's called the Lotus Women's House Shelter. Very near and dear to my heart because they take care of single mothers. Mm-hmm. And they usually have an after-school program where they keep their kids while they go to work. And they told me that the basketballs were kind of old. They needed a new basketball hoop. So based off of the donations that everybody made to Ties for Change, we were able to get them a new basketball goal and a lot of basketballs from Walmart. It was actually a pretty exciting day.
Where are they located? Are they in Miami or are they near Orlando?
That's located in Miami, the Lotus Women's House Shelter.
Is it near 95? Okay. Is it near I-95 or?
I'm terrible with roads.
Okay.
I'm thinking it is off of I-95.
I've seen like a sign for it.
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
So did a basketball not save your life, but tell us the connection there with.
I played basketball for 17 years.
Wow.
That basketball was my life. I thought I was going to go to college for basketball because my mother was really good at it.
Right.
So, but God usually has other plans.
As we say, you make plans and God laughs.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
I think you're going to do that. Just wait and see.
I never did I think that I was actually going to get a track and field scholarship. So when that came about, I was off the basketball team. I'm thinking to myself, this is crazy. What's going to happen? I ended up becoming, Metro East champion. I district champion, regional champion. I placed at, Florida's.
What did you run?
I was a jumper.
Oh, okay.
Long jump and triple jump. Overall, I finished 3rd overall. Wow. University of Miami jumps like history. So pretty proud of that.
You should be. You should be.
You should be. I ran track and I tried to do the jump. That was about I'm 5'2". I wasn't going far. I'm not going far vertically or horizontally. But.
My best, and people ask me, I never know. People like meters and feet. My best jump is 25 feet, 7 inches.
Wow.
So I think it's about 8.06 meters or 8.27. It's somewhere.
That's far.
Yes. 3 feet equals a meter or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. But on the side of working, I'm drastically working right now for Mr. Florida.
Yes, tell us all about that.
And Mr. United States.
And Mr. United States. So everybody's always like, there's a Mr. Florida. Yes, there's a Mr. Florida.
That's what we want to talk about, because everyone's
Right.
like, what is that? What does that mean?
I love being an advocate because it's a new company, and Mr. Florida is actually under the umbrella of Miss USA and Miss America. So that's definitely something that it's on a steady incline right now. So they're trying to get funding, trying to make it a production that's as big or something that's as significant as what's already currently established. And I think the conception of pageantry, I don't know, I think people can't combine like when it's males.
Right.
Right. So I said the best way to describe it is it's like the nation's gentleman. You know, so you're morally
that's a
intact.
nice way of saying it.
You're
Yeah.
socially aware.
Right.
I can't be giving away two of my already pre-remembered answers until I get on
Right.
stage.
Don't give away any top secret information. Everyone's like, what is it? Is it bodybuilding or like?
Right,
what
are
is
there
it?
different
So that's a nice
categories?
way
Like
of putting it,
Miss USA, you have like the swimmer, the
And
talent,
we do,
the
and we have swimwear. There's going to be talent. There's a lot of like preliminary like interviews.
Right.
What is your talent for the? Are you allowed to say that?
I
No.
can't.
Okay,
I
don't give it away.
I
Tell
can't.
us later.
It has to be a surprise. It has to be a surprise because every title holder has been watching the other, and some based off of your Instagram or your social media, you know what they're going to do. Is like they're going to dance. Okay, you're dancing
Right.
at the competition. You're
Right.
going to do like an instrument.
Right.
But then the people who don't have that, so like, so what are you going to do?
I can't tell
Yes,
you.
I
I'm
guess
just
for one.
Mysterious.
secret
You'll have to
information.
find
I
out.
guess you're going to find out backstage when I come out and and we do it. But I've been working out 3 times a day, so
we can't tell.
that and it's it'll progressively get more because now that I finished this program down here in Miami, that now my mom, who's like my momager, my coach, my everything, my best friend, she's going to make
Oh my
sure
gosh,
that I'm
That's like every mom's dream, honestly, right there.
yeah
She's crying right now, by the way. I can't see her
No,
when
no,
she
but she
watches
has
this.
to
She's
be.
crying.
she's gonna have me up at 6 a.m. come like Tuesday, Wednesday morning. It's gonna be intense like making sure that I'm caught up on current events, everything that's involving what's going on in our society, with our economy. So that's gonna be like a mini study session of constantly just like going over this rubric of like on stage questions, and then I'm practicing my talent. Then outside of the talent, you even down to your walk, everything's like, I don't think people like really understand how much work
yeah.
goes into this one, because you feel like you're on stage for a couple seconds, but it's like all the time before it. But it
Preparation,
it
right?
really then it really connects back with track, because for long jump, that's 2 practices every day, Monday through Sunday, but I'm only on the runway for like 12-13 seconds.
Right.
Then you're in the air, and so
And when is this airing? Like, is it going to be on?
So Mr. United States, because it's going into its 3rd year now, it's going to try to be, they're going to try to stream it on MrUnitedStates.org.
Okay.
That's
and what's the
goal.
date?
August 11th through August 13th.
Oh, it's
Okay.
coming up.
We're going to be
coming up.
watching.
Thank you. I'm
Sure.
really excited. I want to bring it back to Florida. That would
Absolutely.
That would be the goal.
Actually, you'll have a birthday and then the pageant right after that.
Right.
Yeah.
So that'd be a
Happy
great
early birthday, by the way.
That would be a great birthday gift. They made a joke because the majority of everybody, you get a free trip, you get a 4-day trip to Disney. And
Oh, there you
Really?
go.
I live in Orlando.
right, I'm from Orlando. I was,
Ask for Disney in California, at
right,
least.
I was like, can I go to Disneyland? Can we switch it up, please? So hopefully, but and then every contestant plans to stream it from their phone. We plan to get really interactive with social media, like a backstage. There's a parade that's like on a river. I've never been to New Orleans, and that's where the competition
right.
is. I'm more excited to eat.
Oh, yeah.
Very excited to eat. Got to make sure I make it past the swimsuit portion first.
you
and then
go.
we're
Yeah,
exactly.
Water until then, and then you can have like crawfish and everything else afterwards.
Water, chicken, and broccoli. That is chicken and
exciting.
broccoli.
What about sweet
Breakfast.
potatoes? No.
No.
No sweet
Oh,
potatoes. Too many carbs?
Chicken and broccoli. Breakfast, lunch,
Okay.
and dinner.
All right.
Sounds fun. Okay, we don't have a lot of time left, but I would like to know what your advice is, or any words of wisdom that you have for young men or girls growing up with a single parent.
And that's right,
any
'cause we're
advice
single
for
parents.
single moms who are beating themselves up because they have to work and they have to
Right.
miss certain things? We have to go really fast, but I feel like this is
Like
really
2
important.
minutes, right?
Okay. Best thing I will say is, in the Bible it says, if you want a long life, honor your mother and your father. So I would definitely say for every young man out there, understand your mom. She's the key to life. She really has all the answers. And for people who have parents in their life, understand that don't resist the advice, because later on in life it's definitely going to make the difference. If it wasn't for my mother teaching me the things she taught me, I wouldn't be Mr. Florida, or this upstanding young man that people admire and respect. It's like this. I'm an image of my mom. That's really the best way I like to put it. So
I think I might cry, honestly.
I think I already am.
Oh, my son is watching this. It's his 16th birthday today. So hopefully he's watching, because this is great advice.
It's all right. It's recorded too. You can just go home and show him.
Oh, yeah. We'll be playing it over and over. Remember your mom.
If you don't listen to me, listen to Timothy. Exactly.
Oh yeah, my mom's my best friend. I tell her, like, don't be afraid to say your mom's your best friend. Don't be afraid to say it.
Well, you're making it cool, and we appreciate it.
Right, because like masculine men can still show their emotions. And I think a lot of guys or young men don't want to see that. They don't want to show that they can cry or that they are feeling some kind of emotion. But you're proof that you can, and you should. So all you boys listening, it's good advice.
I'm trying to make that cool. You're right. I want to make that cool.
All right, the music's on, which means our show is coming to a close. So we just want to say thank you again so much for being on the show, Timothy. We really appreciate it.
Yes. And good luck. We'll be rooting for you next
August
month.
11th.
Bring home that title. And that crown. Yes.
I just want to say they're probably two of the most beautiful hosts I've ever seen. I just want to put that out there. I want to put it out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
We're old enough to be his mom. We're probably like
twice his age. And we're done. Okay, and there we are.
Okay, awesome. Well done.
Nice.
High five. It's a little sweaty. Thank you for joining us for today's show.
Please join us at the same time next week for your weekly dose of entertainment, inspiration, and empowerment.
We'll see you next week.
The opinions expressed on the free internet television network that's truly plugged in. 866-224-5422. That's AMP2.TV. The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. AMP2.TV presents Tell Us Your Business, where you're invited on the air to tell us what makes your business stand out in the community. It's important we hear from you to tell us all we need to know about what you do best. Tell Us Your Business uses the latest radio and television production systems, and all shows can be seen on amp2.tv. If you have a question for our guest, call 888-565-1470. Now, let's get ready as our guest hits the airwaves and informs us about what we need to know on Tell Us Your Business.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Mark Halpert from 3D Learner.
And I'm Mira Halpert from 3D Learner. Welcome to Tell Us Your Biz.
Mira, what are the key questions you ask parents when they first contact us?
Well, so we have a learning program called 3D Learner. We are located in Boca Raton at 7100 Camino Real in a medical office building. And I've chosen that because we work with kids who learn differently, who are visual learners and think differently and are sometimes struggling in school. And we were parents, right? Of kids.
We are, but and the interesting thing is we got started somewhat out of desperation. We were sitting at an 8th grade meeting, transition meeting to high school. They told us our daughter wasn't college material. I turned to my daughter, Julie, and said, Julie, what do you want to be when you grow up? And she said, the teacher I never had. The gentleman then said the line that probably started our business. Honey, you can be a teacher's aide.
Well, if any of you are parents of kids who are parents of kids, period, when they turn to you wondering what it is they're going to do next, the look in our daughter's eyes was turn to mom and turned to us and said, what are we going to do? And I said, you know what? We're going to find a way. And then that's how we've sort of become both parents, but certainly mom and dad on a mission to be able to help all kids be successful and be the wonderful kids that they can be.
So Mira developed what's become known as the 3D Learner program. It helped our daughter, Julie, improve her reading comprehension 4.2 grade levels in 7 months, go on and get her master's degree from the University of Florida. And today, she's teaching highly gifted kids in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. But the real interesting thing is we've met some fascinating parents, kids, professionals along the way. And Dr. Linda Silverman out of the Gifted Development Center in Denver, Colorado, did some research that shows that 65% of the kids are visual learners. And that's probably 80 to 90% of the smart, struggling kids are visual learners.
So speaking of visual, you can certainly follow us live on Facebook at AMP2 TV Production, or certainly we are here at 95.3 FM, 1470 AM. We'd love to be able to answer your questions, parents, grandparents, kids, if you want to be able to give us a call here at 888-565-1470. We're here to be able to answer questions through this program where we're talking. But more than that, to be able to have you contact us at 3D Learner, we can be contacted at 3dlearner.com or in Boca Raton at 561-361-7495. Okay, getting back to visual kids, what do we ask them?
First three questions we often ask are, does your child remember places visited even from years ago?
Wow, do we get some funny answers about that?
And even today, the dad said, my kid remembers places from when he was 2 and 3 years old, but he can't remember where he put his shoes.
Typical.
Classic 3D learner.
Well, they create visual images in their head, so they create a movie. Just like another student who has, just gone through 5th grade and struggling reader was like, of course I make this movie in my head. And it was this aha moment for him, as well as to tell his mom about how he remembers things. He goes, I do this really funny thing about the fact that, I have this movie in my head. Do you have that movie in your head? And of course, I have the movie in my head.
And I keep wondering, what movie?
Right.
But that's my role. The next question we often ask is, does your kid remember experiences they've had? Okay. And they'll ask, is your kid a lot smarter than their present results would indicate? Because a lot of these kids are gifted. They may have 135 IQ, they may have 125 IQ, and the range is all the way across the board, okay? But the thing that amazes us the most is the difference between their present level of performance and their actual results.
This sounds vaguely familiar to any of you that may be listening or watching about the fact that you may have tried lots of tutors. You may have even tried learning centers or the new buzzword today is everybody is dyslexia. They're talking about numbers that are skyrocketing number of kids that are dyslexia. Well, guess what? Kids are learning differently today, and kids are much more visual than they ever were before.
Well, it's interesting because it was a infographic that was put out recently, and it listed the strengths of kids with dyslexia. They're often gifted in math and mechanical skills. They're good at problem solving. They show great verbal skills. They're creative skills,
really
including
good
artistic
Legos.
skills. They're 3D visual spatial learners, and they have a flair for practical and creative skills such as cooking, hairdressing, and fashion, which is exactly the list of strengths of a 3D learner.
Right, which is interesting because I think that, for our kids that were 3D learners, and 2 of our 4 kids are, it was interesting because terribly artistic, I'm not sure that I would certainly say that, but they really thought about creative things in a different way. And I'll be honest, verbally they were very strong. So the thought that they would have a difficult time learning to be able to read, I think was a surprise to me. And I'm an educator. I have a master's degree both in early childhood and gifted and talented. And I was really surprised that she wasn't.
But what surprises me the most is we have kids with A averages, B averages, AB averages, the like.
And they're working really hard.
And they're working 3, 4, sometimes 5 hours a night. And they come into our office and we assess them. And what do we find? Some very strange things. 1, they tend to be visual. 2, they tend to lose focus when things are boring or frustrating.
Oh, they get really frustrated. And I don't want to be repeating things because I think I learned that already, and they didn't really learn it, but they saw it, and that goes back to that visual memory.
And then they skip words and lines when reading, which is something that is probably the most often missed disability. Very common in the visual learners. We probably see it in about 70% of the kids.
Right, and we've even had so many professionals, right, that have said, how can this kid be a visual learner when they have visual processing problems? And the truth is, they see the world, they're global learners, right? So the education that we work with parents a lot is that I've learned over the years, listen, I certainly have an eye teaming problem, as you will. We have two eyes and they're binocular. They're supposed to be able to, historically, there were hunters, and we were all looking out to be able to try and find and catch everything in our horizon. And then, lo and behold, all of a sudden, things like reading and language became, and you don't read out here. You read within a 15 to 18-inch radius from your distance from your face to your book. And when you have these two eyes that come together, and they don't actually really focus together, it's amazing how many kids we've found that aren't really looking where everybody thinks they are.
But what kind of changes can a child see in with a program like 3D Learner?
Well, we've seen kids make dramatic changes in their reading comprehension, let alone their motor planning, let alone their eye teaming skills, in a matter of months. Now, for those kids that we see that have very difficult and very obviously seeking, we work with so many other other professionals, that may take longer. But we're talking about these kids that you've talked before that are really smart, that are just not actually, when they talk about focus, and it turns out that your eye teaming is at the base of your brain, as well as attention skills. And when you work with those two things together in terms of working with your eye-hand coordination, working with body movements, we do a lot. We have an exercise gym at 3D Learner. Either way,
I call it Mira's room.
It's a fun room, and by the way, learning is supposed to be fun and it's supposed to be active. Now, we don't have the kids sit still and finish this work. It's being able to have them be activated, being able to cross their midline. It's so amazing when we talk to parents about the fact that, oh, by the way, did your kids crawl when they were little? And they go, no, they went right to walking. And that cross midline, remember, the right side of your brain controls the left side of your body, and the left side of your brain controls the right side of your body. Who knew, right? All of your kids are going to school. Most classroom teachers don't understand that. So it's important to be able to move, take your arm and move it across that midline. Your arm and move it across the midline. And I can do that with my peripheral vision, but I really need to be able to do it following. And when I'm doing that bigger motor skill, it provides it to be able to have it come, to be able to break it narrower and narrower and narrower.
This is a great medium, Facebook Live. But one of the things that parents have told us over the years is the best way to actually get to know what a 3D learner is all about is at some of our live training. What have we got planned for August?
Well, so 3D Learner also has a sister company, which is a foundation that helps support kids from around the country to be able to and do parent and teacher training. And we're doing on August 26th on Saturday morning at Patchreath Park. We're actually doing a free parent seminar, parent training, to be able to try and help their kids get off to a great start and answer questions about how we can help them. Again, you can be contacted at 561-361-7495, or please contact us at our website at www.3dlearner.com. On our website, we have a free assessment.
We have what's called a success assessment. It screens for learning difference, attention issues, and vision issues. And we've had parents say, oh my God, to their child, why didn't you ever tell me that you thought this way? And the reason is that most kids will say, I thought everybody does. And we've had couples where the woman's a 3D learner and the man's not, and the reverse. And what's often happens is...
We do a lot of marriage counseling, I think, on the side.
We're not doing marriage counseling. Look, one of the things that I'm less proud of than most is I was a screamaholic for the first number of years of my life. I got angry, got frustrated. And my daughter was really good at getting me there. And
then, she didn't learn the way you were trying to be able to teach her, right?
Not even close. Right. Okay?
So what we found is that we were the ones that had to change.
So we wound up teaching the kids how to be calmer. And then one day a mom called us and said, who'd been our client, and she said, I tried this stuff on myself. And she said, my daughter did something that used to get me angry, and I just sat there, and I took control. And instead of homework taking 2.5 hours, it took 1 hour and 15 minutes. So that night, we went home. It was a typical night in a Halpert household. Mary and the girls went out for grocery shopping at 8:30 at night. I'm sitting down to do math homework with my 7th grade son who was taking algebra. We got to the third problem, and all hell broke loose. It was a dumb problem. Okay, I understand that, but he lost it. And I said, Mike, it's okay. And he looked at me, Dad, are you okay? I said, yeah. And he went and had a temper tantrum, and it lasted 31 seconds. And he got the homework done in 35 minutes. When Mira came back at 9:15, she went, what happened? And the answer was, we got it done. Because one of the things you'll learn at the seminar is you'll learn how to be a coach and advocate your child needs. Because I can guarantee you, we have 4 kids, 2 of whom are more traditional learners, 2 of whom are 3D learners. It's totally different. Mira will discuss at this workshop, what's the difference? How it's fundamentally different to teach them spelling, vocabulary, reading comprehension, even giving them instructions.
Well, part of the thing we talked about a little bit before, and by the way, if there are any 3D learner parents that are out there, we'd love to be able to hear you and have you join our conversation, let alone any other parent that has a question. You can call us at 888-565-1470. What were you going to...
They see us on Facebook
and
Live?
They will see us on Facebook Live at AMP2 TV production. The other part that's really interesting is that we've talked a little bit about, remember how many both psychoeds and how many tutoring centers and even dyslexia centers that we went to, and what we realized is that as a visual learner, Julie really learned, and both our kids and the thousands of kids that we've helped since learned differently. They need to look for patterns. They need to understand what words mean. And the interesting piece about that was they really need to learn to use their strengths. It's amazing. Just this young man today was like, well, yeah, of course I have this picture in my head, but how do I use that to learn to read? And I said, remember, words are just symbols that are used in a particular order to be able to create a particular picture.
Let me give you a few examples, because I've been the president of Learning Disability Association of Florida, sat on the national board, used to have a full head of hair before I got into this business. And really, schools drive me nuts. And part of the equation is they actually only teach in a logical, sequential, and auditory way for the most part.
Didn't you get it the first time?
When a kid asks a question, the teacher often just raises their voice. Now, there are some excellent teachers, but as many teachers have told us, they taught us that kids learn differently. They didn't necessarily teach us how to teach the kids that learn differently. And there are some really subtle things. We all assume that kids understand what words like what, where, but, if, except mean. But it turns out these kids don't have a picture of what those words mean.
Oh, and by the way, just even really simple words like the word on, put on your shoe, put something on the table, turn on the light, see you on Saturday. Those are all the same word, but look at all the pictures they have. So
Right.
if I'm trying to rummage through my head to be able to try and do this, just plain knowing the word and assuming that I understand what it means when I read it and read it fluently doesn't necessarily mean anything.
And then when they come to our office, so they have problems with small words. They have problems recognizing words they've seen and not mastered. They have difficulty visualizing what they've read because they're spending so much time decoding. Now, decoding's important. You have to be able to attack a new word. But we've had kids who've been through 6 years of decoding training and are 6 years below grade level in their reading comprehension.
But there are also so many other issues that are going on between
So
attention
many.
and processing issues. And my biggest and favorite is language. Wait,
What
language.
do you mean by language?
Okay, so language experiences. So there are lots of things. There can be, it started way back. Sometimes kids had, as a 1 and a 1.5-year-old to 2, when children are picking up the language sounds that they're hearing. If they've had a lot of ear infections at that time, that's a huge window of opportunity that may have been lost. So they mishear things. And so when they mishear things, they misspeak it. The other part of that is when I talk about the multiple meanings of words, that they don't necessarily understand that. And what they're really listening to, sometimes as coaches, sometimes as teachers or as parents, they're listening to the tone of the voice, not so much what the words mean. And they miss, just like the words that you were saying, those directional words, under, over, between, but, which one is not, that they're trying to be able to get the overall bigger picture, but they miss that detail about what is really understanding. And so they kind of follow along what their friends are doing, but they get into trouble and they don't understand what they're supposed to do. So they either kind of look at it and figure out what they're going to do on their own, or they don't do it at all because I didn't understand it, so I'm just not going to bother to do it.
What surprised me over the years is we might have a 6-year-old we're working with, a 5 or 6-year-old. We start usually with 5-year-olds or 8-year-olds that we're going to flunk the 3rd grade test and wound up excelling on it, or 9th graders or 12th graders that do extremely well. What's the right age?
The right age is when you find it. So
when you find what?
When you're recognizing that your child, and you know this, your kids are really frustrated. So sometimes the really interesting thing is that sometimes we're looking at kindergartners and 1st and 2nd graders that are having a difficult time. They're really bright. They're really good builders. They're Legos kids, we call them. They may even qualify for gifted programs here in Palm Beach County going into kindergarten. But all of a sudden, reading has become a really difficult task because the way their visual global mind works is not necessarily the way they're being taught. So then they have that frustration and anxiety. But also, often they can be smart enough that they can get by. So a lot of times, in the old days, meaning just even 10 years ago, kids were picked up in 3rd grade and above because there was that gap. So it was like, oh, gee, this child has this potential for doing a lot more, but they're really in 3rd grade, but only doing 1st, maybe 2nd grade work. The challenge is that a lot of these kids are sort of limping by. Parents, you're working with them for hours and hours at night at homework. They're getting their work done thanks to a lot of the help. They're even handing it in. And the challenge becomes is that they may even be able to be smart enough to be able to get through all elementary school. And then they get into middle school and things start to be able to get a little bit harder. But certainly we've had a number of kids that are in high school that we've now all of a sudden realized, they don't like to read. And they're smart enough to have gotten by. But it turns out when we've really looked at it and had them read, their reading comprehension skills are some of them as low as 5 grade levels below.
And these are kids that are getting A averages. So if your kid's spending 5 hours a night doing homework, there's something going on. Even if they're getting A's, they're getting A's at a price that's absurdly high. And just think about what happens if you improve your attention, you improve your reading comprehension, your eye teaming, your self-confidence, your self-coaching skills. We've had kids who were told to go to a special ed school who wound up at Harvard and MIT. Now, they were smart, but they were in a system that saw them as something was wrong with them. And when you cross into the 3D learner zone, which we call a no-label zone, okay, right. we don't really care about what the label is because, honest to God, we disagree with most of them. Sure, a kid can be dyslexic by one person, but we can look at the same kid and say, this is a gifted kid who learns differently. And by the way, we're both right. But the question is, what's the future for a child who's going to be treated and given tutoring session after tutoring session after tutoring session versus somebody who can embark on the 3D learner program and be successful in months, not years?
So shall we share with our listeners and our followers?
Sure.
This is truly a labor of love, as you will.
We survived.
We survived. Mark and I have written a book called The 3D Learner, Transforming Stress to Outrageous Success. We're certainly happy to be able to give a number of these books away. If you'd like to be able to call us or contact us at 3dlearner.com or call us at 888-565-1470. It lays out a bit of a framework. We've spent 20 years or more both being parents, so we certainly know where you're at, and educators and professionals, consultants, advocates. working to help these kids be successful. You know, you asked about when's the best time to start, and the interesting piece is, yes, you do it as soon as you recognize that your child is really learning differently and being able to try and work towards those gifts. The downside, unfortunately, for these kids is they are extremely emotional, extremely sensitive, really prone to things like anxiety and even depression. And part of the challenge is that the longer we let it go, the harder it is. And even actually, and I think that, you know, your former life was in the corporate world, and I think that you found that even there were lots of, we will call them visual right brain learners, 3D learners that work there. And it's really interesting because even in the workplace, right?
Well, even in the workplace, I had an engineer who was, I was told not to recruit him because he was lazy and unmotivated. He turns out to have 18 patents now because he's a gifted 3D learner who could solve problems. So the key is we need these 3D learners to be as successful as they can be, because they're the type of people that see a problem and solve it. But the problem is, can they get through school? And the good news is they can. Okay, and what parents can do, the easiest way is, if you want to know more information, go to the website 3dlearner.com. Complete the assessment with your child. It's an interesting experience. And then give us a call at 561-361-7495. Even if you just want some help on how do I start the school year right, how can I help my kid really get better? Okay, because here's the thing about 3D learners. What can we do to help your child clean your room? we go at the workshop on the 26th. We're going to go over that too. But really, if you look at it, the school system is set up to help your kid be better. 3D learners set up to help your kid be all they can be. And you as a parent. We have found that this. It's enlightening. It's enlightening. I mean, yes. Remember vocab nights on Thursday nights? I'd have to be the one that I realized, you know, that one of our kids learned vocabulary, being able to memorize the antonyms and synonyms and the definitions. On the other, needed to be able to have a much more visual, experiential context clue, creating pictures. And people have said to me, they go to a pediatrician, they get referred to a psychologist who sends them to a tutor, an ADHD medication, or to a dyslexia program, and we see this play out over and over and over again. And really, all you want to do is consider the question, is your child a visual learner? And if they are, do they also have attention issues, vision issues, processing speed, and work and memory issues? And then choose your best option. So again, at our website at 3dlearner.com, you can certainly download a PDF of 3D Learner. You know, years ago, I think about these kids learning these. You can also get a copy of Life is a Ball. And I wrote this in Dr. Seuss style about the fact that I think of these kids as balls. Let's think about what a ball is like. A ball is round, a ball bounces, a ball is not boxed in. And I always chuckle when people go, "Oh, you're an out-of-the-box thinker," and my response is, "What? What box? What box?" So I wrote this. I think I can honestly tell you I've made lots of parents cry, grandparents more, when we talk about the fact of being able to celebrate who these kids are. We need these kids more than ever. I know for sure. In fact, again, if we have some parents out there that are former 3D Learner students, you're part of our family. I know, by the way, it's really fun being on Facebook and being in contact with so many of them now that are doing, one of them is taming wild horses, and some of them are lawyers and doctors. And being able to be a part of their life at a critical moment. And I just heard from one last week about being able to have that, being able to know that we helped in some way, being able to help her be successful. And the key here is, at 3D Learner, it's really you, the parent, that make the difference. Okay, you're the one who takes the initiative, who seeks out the best option for your kid, and then learn how to be the coach and advocate. Because one of the things that parents have told us is going to an IEP meeting, an individualized education plan meeting with us, is a totally different experience, because it's all about collaboration. And how do I help my kid be all they can be to make a lot of progress. People will tell us you're unreasonable, and we nod and agree.
It's creating goals, creating vision, creating the positive mindset, and that parents are the ones that are actually making the difference.
And again, if you want more information, go to 3dlearner.com, take the assessment with your child, download the book, Life is a Ball, and then give us a call at 561-361-7495. And please share it with friends and join us on August 26th at Patch Reef Park from 10 a.m. to 12, because that's going to be the live version of Mirror in Motion.
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for listening to Talk Legal with Jeff Van Treese. Tune in next week for more insightful and